Lord, to you I pray, bow down, prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past. To you I pray, bow down, prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past. Oh, I pray. You are the only one worthy of praise.
الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب.
سبحان الله. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah, the hearts find tranquility. SubhanAllah. This ayah talks about the hearts of those who did not follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hearts became as rocks, even harder than rocks. SubhanAllah, what an example. Today, this is one of the symptoms of those who are not attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are not attached to the Quran. They hear the Quran, but SubhanAllah, their hearts do not move. Their hearts do not feel that these are the words of the Creator of the heavens and the earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their fitrah does not recognize that this is the one who is speaking to them, is the one who has created them. Especially the youth today, SubhanAllah, they're attached to so many things, music, movies. They feel moved by them. When it comes to the Quran being recited in the masjid during Ramadan, anytime, SubhanAllah, I don't feel it. A lot of times don't even understand it. What does it mean? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? And if we don't understand it, how can we act upon it? How can we change? How can we change this ummah? How can we change our lives if we don't understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying? If we don't feel the urgency and the necessity to do these things, SubhanAllah. Verily, the hearts have become hardened. And only the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can change this. We need to let it sink deep inside. Let it sink deep inside. There are a few things, subhanAllah, that amaze me when it comes to the Quran, and that is the effect that it has on the people. And we know that the Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's without doubt. And I love, there was a very beautiful comparison that was given that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator, right? In our fitrah, when we hear the word of Allah, we should recognize or feel moved by it, even if you, subhanAllah, if you don't understand what it says, right? And the comparison was that it's like, a baby recognizes the word of his or her mother, right? Because it's been accustomed to it, right? Like, as soon as they're born, right? It's like the only thing that soothes the baby is the words of the mother, right? SubhanAllah. Us being created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course, ليس كمثله شيء, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has almost, it's in our imprint, in our fitrah, to recognize the words of Allah. And I remember very well, a friend of mine was a cab driver in Canada, and he would always play the Quran in his cab. And non-Muslims would get into his car, and they'd be like, wow, what is that? I've never heard this kind of voice. I never heard this kind of sound, or I don't know what he's saying, but this is really moving me. And you find sometimes, subhanAllah, that people, like for example, in Tarawih, they don't understand maybe what the Quran, fully says, but they're crying, and they can't help that they're crying. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you find people who understand Arabic, who understand the Quran, and their hearts move not even an inch. They hear the warning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They hear the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the heart doesn't shake even once. Not one tear sheds, like, subhanAllah. And I feel that this is one of the diseases, or one of the symptoms of a hard heart.
It's so sad, because it really makes you think, because like they would mention of the famous Qari Abdul Basit, that when he used to recite Quran, and even the non-believers, some of them even accepted Quran. And you ask yourself that how hard couldn't your heart be that you when you hear the Quran, that you do not reflect upon the Quran. It's something which a person needs to think about. And it just reminds me of an ayah which is in the Quran, which explains about the hard-heartedness, and how a person's heart becomes so hard, and it becomes harder than a rock. And just to make you listen to this verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recites, it's verse 73, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recites and he mentions, and he says,
This is Surah Baqarah, yeah?
This is in Surah Baqarah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ثم قست قلوبكم من بعد ذلك فهي كالحجارة أو أشد قسوة وإن من الحجارة لما يتفجر منه الأنهار وإن منها لما يشقق فيخرج منه الماء وإن منها لما يهبط من خشية الله وما الله بغافل عما تعملون.
Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us here the story of Bani Israel, the people of Israel, telling them that their hearts hardened like the rocks, even worse and harder than the rocks, subhanallah. And when you look at a rock, it's like you find that this is the symbol of strength, And imagine the heart, which pumps and keeps us alive and pumps our blood, subhanallah. It's a soft piece of flesh. And to put the two together, you have a rock here and a heart here. And to imagine that a heart can be harder than a rock. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us even that some of the rocks, from them, spring rivers. Right, as we know, the rivers spring from mountains, so on. And from some, water comes out. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the comparison that these hearts were harder than this.
And it's only, like Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu mentioned, he said, when Allah speaks to the Bani Israel, this is in fact, in today's time, we should
pay attention.
Pay attention to this. And we should try and stay away from this, because here, when your heart becomes hard, like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains, this means that nothing enters into it, nor does anything come out from it. It means when this heart becomes hard, that you have no feeling towards your Muslim brothers. You have no sense of remorse in you.
Right.
You have no sense of sentiments, no feelings, So this is so important that Allah is warning you, that if you carry on with this here, that your heart, the more harder, it's almost as if day by day you are hardening it, and you are hardening it. And what happens is that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah saves all of us from this, that the day when you'll be leaving this world, your heart will be so hard that you won't even recognize your Creator, and it will be difficult for you to recite the kalima.
I mean, going back to the story, because there's a context to this ayah about Bani Israel, and this Surah Baqarah, and it focuses a lot on Bani Israel and their story. And we find that why did their hearts become so hard? Is because, subhanAllah, they saw the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were chosen people from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet they continued on disobeying and insisted on disobeying and disobeying.
Can you imagine, like, Allah gave them manna wa salwa,
All
He
the
gave
best.
them
I mean,
food,
you see
they
it.
had
You
the
see
best of food, they had the best of, they were saved from the Pharaoh of that time, they saw the rivers splitting open. They saw how they managed to pass, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them how He destroyed the oppressing leader. So many things was shown to them. So many things was done to them to confirm, and it was almost like a stamp, like a confirmation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has benefited and granted you so many. Yet they chose to go against the commands and the belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So let's identify some of these symptoms and what are the causes, of some of these symptoms. And as you said, right, as Ali radiallahu anh said, that the Muslims we should pay attention when these ayats about Bani Israel are mentioned. Now, what are some of the things that can cause the hardening of the heart?
One of the main things that causes the hardening of the heart, Imam Ghazali mentions in his Ihya'ul Ulumuddin. He mentions that you get almost as if he put 3 types of desires, and ulama have mentioned that you get another type of desire. Firstly, you get which is, for example, we say you get the desire which is a carefree desire.
No.
Nafsul Ammara. Many scholars have said that if a person continues on Nafsul Ammara, which is a carefree nafs, what does this desire do? A person doesn't care where he is, why he's doing the sun, for what is he doing the sun, what is the repercussions of the sun. He doesn't have no care at all. And if you continue on this here, that is where the heart, this is one of the symptoms of the heart becoming hard. Becoming black, because a person automatically it becomes a habit in him to do something, it becomes a habit to lie. I don't know if you've noticed, they used to mention the funny story, it's so funny, of this person. His name was Ash'ab. I read this in Nafhatul Arab, which has ancient stories of so his name is, they used to call him Ash'ab, and he used to lie so much, repeatedly. Everything he said was a lie. So one day a few children were, troubling him. So he said to them that you are troubling me, yeah? And the Khalifa, Abdullah ibn Umar, he said he even lied about this. He said the Khalifa, Abdullah ibn Umar, is giving sweets behind the mountain. So all the small children started running towards the mountain. After a while he thought to himself, hey, that could be true what I said. So he started running behind them.
He started believing it.
He started believing his own lies.
He's just, you can't differentiate.
So you can't differentiate. So this is what happens. You start doing such sins and continuous that you cannot even differentiate what is good from bad.
And He says in the Quran, this is the rana, it's like rust that settles from the sin on the heart and makes it. And
that's why Allah said, ثُمَّ قَصَدْ قُلُوبُكُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it's almost as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to point, it could come like a rock, and if you keep steadfastness, فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً.
So it can be worse than
it can be worse than a rock.
Subhanallah. And there are materials that are harder than rock.
There are materials that are harder than rock,
Subhanallah. That's an amazing, even from a scientific perspective.
And this proves to you first that this is the word of Allah.
Have spilled over onto the
escalated into violent clashes between police and protesters
over the government's plan to avoid default.
And we're also hearing of injuries on both.
Journalist Charlie McGrath says the cuts will heap further suffering on ordinary people.
For decades, but the fence needs some
This is a serious and big storm.
Join me as I explore pressing issues facing the Muslim world today. From the one-sided civil war in Syria to the genocide in Burma, from the Arab Spring to the elections in the US, and yes, even the Euro debt crisis in Greece. Honest reporting on a channel you can trust, and I won't leave an issue untouched. Don't miss the Ummah Tonight with me, Malik, on your favorite channel for the TV.
الذنب قد يستهين به الإنسان في جنب الله لكنه عظيم، ولذلك قال بعض السلف لا تنظر إلى ما عصيت به ولكن انظر إلى من عصيت. لا يمر عليك يوم لا تقلب فيه بصرك في المصحف. لا يمر عليك يوم لا تقلب فيه بصرك في المصحف ولو أن تقرأ جزء آية، لكن هذا له أثر في حياة القلب، خاصة مما يراه الإنسان من مناظر.
And it proves to you that Allah has understood His creation.
SubhanAllah,
And
of
it
course.
proves to you that Allah is warning you that if you keep on this track and you keep on disobeying me and you continuously, running on that desire, this is what the outcome
Like,
is.
what's another thing, Yani? From my side, I feel that a second, issue that could lead towards the hardening of the heart, of course, is preoccupying yourself with things that don't regard you, being involved in the dunya, in matters that really have nothing to do with you or with what's important in this life. Right? And today, of course, we are specialists in this, and we live in a world, in a society that is specialized and put out magazines that do not concern you. It's like all these
that is what
paparazzis
they mentioned, min husni islamil mar'i, tarkuhu ma la ya'ni.
Subhanallah.
That is from the beauty of a Muslim, is to leave that which does not concern you. And that's what I basically, I was just adding on what you were mentioning.
I mean, how amazing is that, right? Because, and I go back to giving you the example, you just go in line at, a superstore or something like that to buy something, and the first thing you see next to the gum and the candy is these magazines that are talking about, this actor's doing this and this personality is doing that. SubhanAllah, maybe not even true, nothing, but people are so into it. It's become a deen, a way of life. People are, they can't live without finding out what's going on in someone else's house or the problems of someone else, right? And this slowly takes them away from what's important in their life, the deen itself, and they're so preoccupied with what does Shah Rukh Khan doing in Pakistan or something, or some actors or something.
This is, and not forgetting, we've mentioned a few points, like for example, I've mentioned the Nafsul Amara. You've mentioned of people doing things which does not concern them. Thirdly, arrogance. This is also, it plays a big role in a person, because the moment you think that, I'm this
I think we need to focus on this, because probably this is, amazing. I think this is the worst.
This is the worst, because why? When you have arrogance, it is almost as if this is because why? When someone advises you, like, who are you to tell me? How can you advise me? Don't you see who am I?
SubhanAllah.
How can you be telling me? Can't you see that I'm from this place, or I have this amount of money, or I have this amount of status? Who are you to tell me?
Somehow you deserve this.
You deserve
you forget who gave it
basically, to you. Arrogance plays a big part in making a person's heart black, because no one can tell you nothing. The worst part of arrogance is that I've read in some of the documentaries, you read in some of the magazines and that, of parents who used to be scared to advise the children because he would be arrogant, or because he would get angry quickly, So the mother and father, the mother would say to the father, he came late into the house, you speak to him. And the father would say, if I speak to him, he's just going to go out of the door. So both of them would. So you deprive yourself of good advice. No one wants to speak to you because they know you have pride. No one wants to get close to you. So automatically, what happens to that person? This builds also in his heart.
And arrogance, and in Arabic, is kibr. Right?
Kibr.
And kibr, and from kabir, from making yourself big, and it reminds me of a beautiful hadith of the Prophet when he said, "Ala akhbirukum bi ahli an-nar, kullu utulin jawadin mustakbir." And these are the people of, should I not tell you about the people of hellfire? And one of them is the mustakbir, the one who has kibr, who's arrogant. SubhanAllah, arrogance, the way you drive, arrogance, the way you look at people, arrogance, the way you talk to people, arrogance, the way you deal with someone, arrogance, in everything, the way you dress even, SubhanAllah. Arrogance can be on so many levels.
And how beautiful, it's just, we just need to read the biography of our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. How was the time when his son Ibrahim passed away?
SubhanAllah.
And there were tears rolling down from his eyes. And one of the Sahaba said, "Oh Nabi of Allah, you are crying?"
You're crying, yeah.
The Nabi of Allah,
you shouldn't cry.
You shouldn't cry. And what did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? That what can I do if my heart is not hard?
Allah.
So Subhanallah, even our Prophet had a soft heart. And these are qualities that need to be instilled in us. And so basically, like we said, what do you think? What are the treatments for keeping away from hardening your heart?
So we brought up some amazing points specific about kibr, and I think this is one of the biggest things. I think another point of the treatment, as we started with the Quran, definitely, you know, as we know from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the Quran is shifa. Shifa, you know, it's a healing, subhanAllah. So we need to get back to the Quran. People need to take the Quran as medicine, you know, a medicine for the heart. And I remember, mashallah, a brother of ours, he used to say, he's a doctor by profession, right? But he used to say that I'm a doctor of the hearts, you know, and you give da'wah with the Quran, you need to touch the heart, right? So people need to make it a regular thing that they recite the Quran, and not just that, but they understand the Quran, and not just that, but they act upon the Quran.
And another thing, just to make mention of, and I heard a scholar speaking about qualities which could make your heart much more softer, you know, to soften the heart. He mentioned a few beautiful qualities, and I think this is like the ultimate, you know. Number one, when you step into the masjid, look on the floor. If you find a piece of rubbish, pick it up and put it in your pocket. Number two, don't always wait for people to greet you. You understand? Afshu salama bainakum. Be the first one to greet, you know. Don't wait for, you know, let him greet me. Why should I greet him? You know, you greet first. Even if it could be a youngster, you know, greet him. SubhanAllah, all these small qualities add up. You find automatically,
slowly
you know,
humble yourself.
Slowly you humble yourself. Number three, if you find someone who is in a difficult position, an old person, help them, assist them. Number four, take out time in visiting the sick. Take out time in visiting those that were afflicted, who got those small children who are in orphanages, who got burnt, who are blind, who are deaf, who do not have parents. You know, take out time maybe once in a week. Take a friend, go and visit them. You know, all these things here automatically.
I want to add something.
It softens the heart.
Visit the graveyard and remind yourself of death.
Subhanallah, visit the grave.
As the Prophet ﷺ gave us the advice.
Because you could see in today's time, it's almost as if the technology that they've designed, it's so powerful that you could come at the grave, at the janazah. You would be like, it could be your friend, it could be your brother, it could be your family, and he's being lowered into his grave, and you're like, oh, I should change. I should work on my desires. I should try and change my life. Tomorrow this could be me lowered into the grave. You know, you have that remorse. You might even be crying and you're saying, I have to change. After a few minutes when you leave the grave, just take that same person and put him into a mall or a place where a shopping center. Let him walk from the exit, from the entrance to the exit.
It's finished.
Everything is finished. It wipes out everything.
It's back to
understand?
being hard.
It's back to being hard. So basically, you can never just say that there is one action that I'm going to do today and my heart will be soft forever. You have to keep on, you understand? It's continuous until the day, you know. That's why most of the scholars, you would find them, even towards the ending, the shaitan would come to them and try and digress them from the proper path, or divert them until the end. They would stick, you know, because they knew that it's a continuous battle. That's why Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, towards the ending of his life, in his 70s or 80s, he was making dua that, oh Allah, please save me from fornication. And a Sahaba came to me and he said, oh Abu Hurairah, in this age of yours, so old, you asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save you from fornication? Abu Hurairah said, Wallahi, we cannot be free from the chains of shaitan. He will try each and every step of the way to digress you from the straight path and to cause you to disobey the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we are never safe. Your heart is never safe. You have to continue on training this heart of yours until it becomes soft. And when it becomes soft, you know, that is when you'll enjoy the beauty of Islam.
Read Quran.
You know, it's so important. And we have to say that we are really fortunate to have the Quran, because it is a guide to our lives. Alhamdulillah. Shukran.
Oh Lord, to you I pray, bow down, prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past. To you I pray, bow down, prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past. Oh, to you I pray. You are the only one worthy of praise. Oh my Lord, I surrender to you. I entrust all of my affairs to you. I depend on you for your blessings too, both with hope and fear of you. There is no fleeing